cause I can read between the lines. I ain't blind, we unwind what they're really saying. Genetically modify what you're tasting. Don't need that college promise, so now you live up in your mom's basement. Redesign time so your mind is always wasted. Programmed to crave the basics. Keep the beta in stasis. Pay the stake, kid. You're in debt for being born. Messengers are mourn, just the price for being warned. Don't be alarmed, disconnect from their machinations. Stop subscribing to the folly of own nations. Bone breaking ain't the answer, cause they seek the ownership of souls. Spread the seeds and watch them grow. Break the chains of control. Break the chains of control.
Sweet eternal balance of all that is good, true, and beautiful, friends. What an epic show we have here for you lovely roguesters out there tonight, and those Tripoli Tinfoil Hat podcast listeners as well. In an amazing confluence of badassery and straight-up pimpin' style, we've got two incredible human beings here on Rogueways and what will surely go down as the mashup of the century. In corner one, we've got supreme friend of Rogueways, master alchemist, ultra healer extraordinaire, scientific mind of the ages, scholar of the century, and teacher to all who are wise enough to listen, the creator and engineer of Phoenix Aurelius Lab and Apothecary, and all of the spagyric tinctures and remedies therein. Phoenix, what's up? Welcome back to Rogueways, and how are you doing tonight?
Yo, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm doing really well. I got a little pain actually in my side from working out a little too hard, but I'll take it. No pain, no gain, right?
Right. I have a little pain in my side from building a chicken coop because that's where I'm at in the world. But in corner two,
well, I think we've all got a pain in our side because
seriously.
of this whole COVID nonsense. So,
dude, for real, let's see an end to that as soon as possible. And in corner two, we've got the master of fringe topics with a laugh and a chuckle, a dude who will straight up stare into the abyss and then crack jokes about its mom, the fearless Ronin of thought who traverses the weird and wonderful on a whim, the producer, writer, and creator of Tinfoil Hat Podcast, the man himself, Sam Tripoli. Sam, what's up, and welcome back to Rogueways, and thank you so much for doing this Swapcast. It's awesome to have you.
It was a wonderful intro. I mean, that's just worth the price of admission right there. Thanks for having me on, guys. How are you, Phoenix? Good to see you guys. Both of you. I'm super excited to be with you, Lindsay. Just excited to be here, man. I forgot, Phoenix, you had a mohawk. I should have mohawked mine up, and we could break
close.
the record for most mohawks on
Yes.
a swap. I think we've set the record. This is a world record on that. So super excited to be here, man. I love this stuff. When you were on Phoenix, we had such a great response, and I just love all this stuff. You know, it's really easy to sit there in the kind of a dark abyss of all the stuff going on with all the, this gate and that gate and this gate. But it's fun to kind of get out in the esoteric world and, just a little bit deeper and a little bit more hope. I feel like this is kind of gives us that that we can talk to the universe and they'll let us know everything's going to be okay, right?
Yeah.
And you and a lot of the guys that I've had on lately have really opened my eyes to kind of the world we live in, and that we can't really save anybody outside of children. That's kind of where I break the rule. I'll go to war to stop the suffering of children, but outside that, you gotta the best way to save other people is to save yourself, and the universe kind of tells you that all the time. So I really appreciate you guys allowing me to be a part of this, man.
Likewise. I think this is going to be one of the best, most exciting episodes that I think I've ever done. Usually, I mean, I've done some really great stuff. The last podcast I did with both of you guys actually was at the top of my list, but this is a whole new level because we get the opportunity to ask some questions that are going to help people individually and collectively to find solutions to problems that exist, and be able to, whatever problems there are, we can ask questions to be able to get answers to help us move beyond these problems. And I think that's one of the biggest things that we can be doing right now. So
I think it's super important. Real quick before we get to, I want to tell you about our good friends at Cushy Dreams. That's smokable CBD. Cushy Dreams specializes in extraordinary CBD-rich hemp flower and pre-rolled CBD joints, right? If you want to, some people like the smoke, but they don't want to get high. I totally understand that. As a guy in recovery, I don't want to do anything to my brain, but are you in recovery as well?
You could say that. I don't like to get high much. anymore.
Well, my problem is I like to get high too much. So that was my problem. So things like CBD, smoking CBD, Cushy Dreams offers a full lineup of premium smokable CBD. If it's cannabis that's shipped directly to you, it's legal in all 50 states. Join the men and women who are sick of vapes and gummies and want to smoke their CBD. And Cushy Dreams allows you to smoke your CBD. It is a high quality marijuana. It's high quality marijuana. Feels like high quality marijuana and tastes like high quality marijuana. Health benefits of CBD without getting high, which is important to me. The attention is to the detail, notable in every beautiful flower. Each plant is hand selected by a team of experienced cannabis flower expert, 100% trimmed, hand trimmed, never machine trimmed. They are like artists, man. This is their Picassos, okay? Independent lab testing show compliance and purity. Each batch is slow cured 2 to 4 weeks to guarantee maximum freshness and preserved flavor, okay? CBD has Kush Dreams has CBD flower and pre-rolled joints. Here's what you got to do. Go to cushydreams.com. That's KUSHYDREAMS.com. Cushy Dreams, and check out using the promo code Tinfoil for 15% off your first order. So that's 50% off your first order. Use the promo code Tinfoil. And let's get on the show. Thank you guys both for letting me do that. It means the world to me. Thank you guys. So let's get to the fireworks. Yay!
I'm actually going to order some of that right now. So
I was like, I didn't even know you could smoke.
Tobacco.
I didn't know you could get smokable weed that was not THC. I didn't know that. That's rad.
I did, but I've never tried this company, so I'm gonna give it a shot.
Well, dude, you're too kind, guys. And man, I mean, I think the weed people are kind of like doing some incredible stuff.
Yeah.
And I in recovery, I can't do it right now. So this is wonderful for that. Some people drink near beer, which is weird. Drink beer for the beer taste, but I guess CBD if you want all the benefits without getting high. I think that's pretty awesome, man.
This was the thing when I quit drinking the first time. I didn't really want to quit drinking, and so I drank that shit, and it was nasty and stupid and pointless. And when I quit drinking and I actually wanted to be, healthy and free from that and actually quit everything, then I never have wanted it again. So it's just, I think it's a matter of like whether you're there or not, whether you want to use those sorts of fake, halfway measures or whatever. But the CBD thing, that has its own value. Like that's just good for you. So it's like you get to sort of indulge and like have fun, but also be improving your health.
Cheat, right? That not you keep your days. My whole thing is like the only thing I ever miss liquor wise, because I really don't have any urges to drink, but I miss Samuel Adams for some reason. And I love their commercials because I love the guy who's the Samuel Adams guy, and you just over time you're just watching him just get shit faced, right? Like he's got a gin blossom, people are holding him up. He's like Samuel. He's always drunk. I just appreciate his commitment to his love of drinking and his beer. So that's about everything else. I don't really miss it, So, but CBD without getting high. That sounds great to me. I'm excited about this. Phoenix, some people might not know what this is, and then I'm gonna let Lindsay take over. Could you give us a little understanding of what we're about to do right now?
Yeah, for real. So both on Rogueways as well as on Tinfoil Hat, I happened to bust out my quantum scalar instrument, which does intrinsic data field analysis, and we started doing some IDF, what's called investigations, and it became really hot. Lindsay and Sam both reached out and said, hey, let's do a whole episode of this because people are really interested in this, and here's what's up. So for those of you who have never heard about this, never seen it before, didn't get any introduction the last time I was on Tinfoil Hat, IDF stands for Intrinsic Data Field, and this goes back to the theories of Rupert Sheldrake and morphogenetic fields or morphic fields. And basically what it is that anything that exists either as a thought or as a frequency, and meaning that if it exists in tangible reality, obviously it has a frequency behind it, but even thoughts have frequency, emotions have frequency. So if it has frequency, what we can do is we can investigate or we can analyze various aspects of those things and break it down into its subparts or even ask questions about it, so on and so forth. The quantum scalar instrument that I'm using is called the SE5 2000 Gold, and it's made by the people at se5.com. Yes, their website is terrible. It's probably one of the worst I've ever seen. But we have to, as people who are doing this kind of work, we pretty much have to stay under wraps and do things that are outside of the scope of the FDA or other oversight agencies, because otherwise they come in and they play whack-a-mole with guys like us. So their website sucks for a reason. And if you're interested in getting involved with it, you can go to my website. You can go to the wellness research section of my page, scroll down, take a look more about the instrumentation, what it does. If you have questions, feel free to ask me. If you're interested in getting one for yourself, your own research or investigative work, feel free to let me know. I'd be more than happy to put you in touch with the office staff. And basically the way that it works is like this. On this instrumentation, I have a dial on my left hand. And this dial is an amplitude dial. And tonight we're going to be grading things between 0 to 100. I can do just about any number scale, but 0 to 100 is what we're going to work on tonight. And on my right hand, I have what's called a precision stick detector, which is more or less like a stick pad. Ancient shamans in Africa used to be using this. They still use this. Some shamans in Africa still use this, where what they would use is a wooden block, and they rub the block just like this in a counterclockwise motion with their right hand while holding the block with their left hand. They'll put an herbal cure or something in front of them, sitting right next to a person who's sick. Then they ask a question whether that herb or cure is going to help them, and where their fingers stick, that's the herb that's going to work. So it's a form of kinesiological interfacing that relies very heavily on the operator. So if you're not in a very good balanced space, so on and so forth, the instrumentation isn't going to work. So for tonight, for the demonstration, I'll actually be showing all of the intake clearances that I have to run, and be showing people that I myself am within the guidelines to be able to operate this thing. And then once we show that, then we'll be asking questions that are particularly guided towards how we can help society or individuals or just the entire planet with information to help us evolve collectively or individually, so on and so forth. So questions about sustainability, questions about, you know, things that can actually help us, because if it can't help us, if it's just mental masturbation, we're not really interested in it. I mean, yeah, that's great, it's cute. It might give you a little, you know, you get high for a second on the information, like, oh, I told you so. But my point as an operator of this is not either to aggravate or to aggrandize people's opinions or beliefs. I'm not looking to put a target on my head. So what I wanted to do is focus very specifically on things that are going to be able to help us either individually or as a collective, as a planet, as communities, etc., to be able to level up our game. So that's basically what we're doing tonight.
One question real quick, Lindsay, if fans do want to ask questions, where should they go right now to ask questions? Is it to your YouTube?
Yeah, if they're
you're going to be able to.
Yeah, DLive, YouTube, or Facebook, any of those comments get fed to me here, and I can see them all. And so if we have time, or if it relates to what we're already doing or whatever, then you can put it there, and hopefully we'll see it and throw it up.
One quick thing I wanted to say is I really understand what you're saying about not trying to get too big. I often think about that with the podcast. I know it sounds kind of weird, but it's like you want your podcast to get as big as it can, but at the same time, you don't want it to get too big, because then, you know, the authorities start listening to what you're talking about. And if it's too underground or alt, whatever they want, that's when they probably come running. And you know, it's this weird kind of thing. You want to reach as many people as you can, but you also don't want too much attention. You know, so I completely understand that.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's a big thing for all of us. I mean, especially with all the censorship that's going on, and basically the way that I view it is stripping away our freedom of speech as individuals and freedom of expression that's happening today. We shouldn't have to be careful, but in a certain regard, we do have to be careful. And there have been a lot of people, starting with Royal Rife and Dr. Albert Abrams and other people who were pioneers in this field, who got put in prison for practicing medicine with this instrumentation. And it's a real threat. It's something that we have to deal with. And because I have to interface with the FDA and with other inspective agencies pretty regularly, it's just best that I keep a lid on my shit.
No, I respect that, dude.
I love it.
I really do respect that.
And I also want everyone out there listening to know, because I think Sam and I both, and Phoenix too, asked for questions ahead of time, and we got a lot of questions. So we looked through, and I think Phoenix has chosen some of his favorites, and so we're going to be looking at those. And then, if we have time, we might do whatever. But definitely let us know in the chat, especially because I know sometimes we have to reword things, right? And so if you have like a better way to reword it, or if you can think of sort of a tangent off of what we're finding to sort of add and dig deeper, then share those, and just feel free. So I'll be watching the chat as we go.
Is there a best way to ask a question, Phoenix? Like, what would be the best way to present a question for yourself and the machine to answer to its best abilities?
That's a great thing. That's something I didn't cover. So realistically, we're limited when we're asking different types of questions. When we're performing analysis on something, we've identified something, we can grade it on a scale of 0 to 100, and that's pretty easy. If it's a negative tuning, anything above a 15 is a bad thing. We want everything to be below a 15, otherwise it indicates it's a problem. If it's a positive tuning, anything above an 85 means that that's a good rating. Anything below 85 means that that's not a good rating. So like if we're checking the intensity of something or how bad something is, then that's one thing. We would just phrase it like, well, how bad is this on a scale from 0 to 100? How intense is this, or how good is this? Then we'd be able to check those things out. If we're asking yes/no questions, those are a little bit trickier, but they're not that hard. We can still run those in a 0 to 40, but we need them in a yes/no format. This is admittedly, and I say this with all love, this is where people really fell short of understanding the rules when they were submitting questions to me, and probably to you guys as well, which was phrase it very simply, very directly. It has to be a yes/no question. So if any of you guys have played the children's game Headbands, this is exactly like that. It has to be a yes/no question where we can say either yes, maybe, or no. And anything between 0 to 40 is going to calibrate as no, with things near 0 meaning, oh, hell no. 41 to 70 is going to mean maybe, and those are kind of elusive because it could mean that we didn't phrase things right. It could mean that we're almost on the right track, not quite on the right track. And it could just legitimately mean, yes, but with condition, or no, but with conditions. Anything from 71 to 100 means yes, with items near 100 meaning, oh, hell yes. When I'm doing investigative spagyric wellness research and gathering data, anything below a 90 is not really a yes for me in my own work. So it means that it's like, even if it comes up as say like a 76 or an 80 or something like that, it's like, yeah, and would be the way that I would translate that. So yes, no questions, that's the way that that's going to work. And then if there are other questions like how many of something exists, then we can ask that. Anything that can have a numerical number to it or any yes, no question, those are things that we can ask tonight.
So there's an example that from Rogueways actually, where we asked, for example, what is the name of the dark entity that Bill Gates is working with? And when we said Baal, it was like, I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was something like 89 or something. And we said like, what about Baalam? And it was like 92 or whatever. And we got finally to Baalam Moloch, and then it was 100. So like,
oh my God.
So you can sort of like tweak it as you go along and try to get closer. But I remember the first time we did it, we stopped because we didn't have any more ideas, but we came back to it in a later episode and we got it up to 100. So.
Oh my God.
that was an exciting one.
Yeah, that was an exciting one. And see, and actually, you know, a lot of people who are listeners to Rogue Ways especially had more questions of that type of nature. But what I realized, especially after feedback that I got on my website, is that people don't know what to do with that information. Yeah. So they might get that, and then it's just mental masturbation for them. They're like, see, I told you so. Or they use it to tell other people like, yeah, this is it, and this guy figured it out. Then I become this weird target guy for anti-believers or for believers, and they hold me in this weird cult status either way. I'm not interested in that, okay?
Yeah, I'm with you on that, too. By the way, mental masturbation is a wonderful name for a podcast. In case anyone's looking for the name of a podcast, you just got it right there.
Yeah, seriously. So, yeah, at any rate, so what we'll be doing tonight is just stuff that people have questions about, that if we have the answers, we will know more or less what to do with them or where to go from there. Or at least certain portions of the population who are working on these things will be like, okay, cool. This gives me another lead. Now I can go on to here. And again, I just want to add the caveat to this that even when I am performing IDF analysis and IDF investigations, this is not anything that is absolute to me, okay?
Right.
This is just adding corroborative evidence to support or to discredit certain ideas so that I know whether something is likely or not likely. And then this gives me really good data to draw from to say, like, this seems to be like this seems to be like this. And if I can find other corroborative data that supports that claim, then that's great. And if I find other data that directly contradicts what we're finding, then that's also great. So people need to take this with a grain of salt and don't get too up in your heads about it. Don't think that this is absolute truth. I'm not playing God. I'm not working with demons or anything like that. That we're just checking intrinsic data fields, getting a kinesiological response to be able to see whether something appears to be true or not based on the data that we have and how we're phrasing things.
Right. And that's the thing, I think, too, exactly what you just said, how we're phrasing things. So if people get caught up on certain things, just remember, like, the wording matters, and the way you're thinking about it might be, you know, sort of carrying up a lot of gray space, but if you get, like, really narrowed down onto that word, like, what does it actually mean? So, you know, there's a lot of wiggle room and places to go. And I also like what you're saying about this is more data. It doesn't mean absolutely this is true. And so we take it as a piece of evidence.
Just chill out.
Yeah.
You know, we're just having a fun time here. We're not trying to, like, change, you know, the laws of the country. It's just a podcast, and we're having fun with it. If it's something that bothers you, stop listening.
Yeah.
It's not like we're charging you $1,000. It's just
free.
This is fun, and we're having fun for it.
Right.
This is just a fun time.
Absolutely.
Chill and enjoy the ride.
Yeah. So those are our 3 disclaimers.
Yes. Chill is the name of the show. So cool. You want to share your screen and get started?
Yeah, let's go ahead and do this. First of all, let me go ahead and go here. And that should share this. And then let me scoot this over so that I can see what the hell I'm doing. There we go. All right, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, this is awesome.
So the name of this session is going to be Rogue Ways and Tinfoil Hat Swapcast. These are questions from the audience that I'm doing as a description. And I just want to show everybody, I'm going to take my intake clearances. Down here in this little bottom right-hand corner of the intake clearances, you're going to see my precision stick detector. So just to show everybody how this works, when I start rubbing my fingers on the stick pad, you can see that there's an EQ graph, right?
Yeah.
That starts to move. Now, what's going to happen is that if I ask a question and we get a hit, then this thing's going to hit a spike, and it's also going to make a beep. And I'm just sitting here rubbing this the whole time I'm talking just to show you that it doesn't give me false positives, okay? This isn't going to show a huge spike. It's not going to beep if I'm not asking a question, if I'm not focusing on it as the operator. When we get a beep is when I actually ask a question. So for instance, all these intake clearances, the ADDRMNVOWAM is basically this long acronym, but it means, do I have any biases essentially to the answers that we get? This is a positive tuning, so anything with a plus in front of it means that it should be above an 85 or higher as a passing grade. Otherwise, I'm not fit as the operator to be running any of these tests. And for me, I really don't like to do it if I'm below a 95, because that gives 5% of wiggle room to my answers. I'm not a big fan of more than 5% wiggle room. 5%, it's like, okay, I can take it. I can understand that. 15% though, if it was like at an 85, I'm not so good about that. So I'm just going to go ahead and take that here in just a second. The second one is the same thing. Do I have any biases? But this is negative biases towards the work. So this runs from 0 to 100, and instead of 100 down to 0. And if this pops up above a 15, then by the rules of the software and the hardware, I'm not supposed to use it. But again, I don't like that to be higher than 5. This third one is going to be my energy purity. We're going to start at 100 because, again, it has a plus sign in front of it. And this is going to tell people what my energy purity is as the operator.
Damn.
To begin performing the work. If my energy is lower than a 95, I don't do this for my clients, and that's going to be the same thing today. Then we have interferences A, B, C, D, and those are basically like are other people's thoughts, other people's emotions, other, even maybe my thoughts, my emotions, my am I in balance? Are other people in balance who are tuning into the particular intrinsic data fields that we're looking to analyze? And then we have interfering fields, which is electromagnetic interferences or radio frequency interferences, et cetera, et cetera. And then barriers to rapport. This is, are people going to be susceptible to not understanding the work that we're talking about, and so on and so forth.
Wow.
And again, if this is above a 5, then I will probably do a quick little meditation, try and balance out the field using some psychic techniques, test it again. Usually when I perform this stuff, I don't get any higher than a 5, so we'll check. And then if this was a person, then I check their general vitality, acid alkaline balance, and sodium chloride balance. But because we're not doing this for somebody else, this is going to be my general vitality, my acid alkaline balance, my sodium chloride balance, because I can only be, as an operator, as within the parameters of being tested well and testing, having things flow through me. If my vitality is high, if my acid alkaline balance is good, because that deals with electrical resistance and chemical reactions, and same with sodium chloride, that deals with electrical resistance as well. So we're going to test all these things. We'll just start off and see what we get.
Hold on. Let me digest what you just said right there for the listeners, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So basically, your mental, physical, and spiritual status, feelings at that time affect this. It's kind of like, I've always wondered, like, how many times like a hairstylist has gone to work just hung over, right? And they're like cutting your hair, and you're like, if they're just hurt right now, are they going to give you a great haircut? It's like it's like you have to be fine-tuned to get this going. And what else I think is very interesting here is something happened to me the other day, and I'd love to get your guys' opinion on it. So I'll look at myself in the mirror, and obviously when we all look at ourselves, we have a certain view of ourselves, and sometimes some of us beat ourselves up a little too much, and some of us don't beat ourselves up enough, right? But we have a certain view of ourselves that we see in the mirror. And then let's say someone will take a picture or someone will take a video, and you're like, that's what I look like. And I kind of, because I saw it the other day with me, where it's like, I saw myself one time, and then I saw a video of me. I was at the March Against Child Sex Trafficking, and I was just like, oh, wow, that's what I look like. I'm wondering, do you think when you see a picture taken by somebody else, that you see it through their energy, their views? Because it's like, everyone always says, like, when you hear your own voice, you're always like, that's what I sound like. And you're like, well, it's like, maybe you're just listening to your voice through the person who sent you the voicemail or stuff like that, right? I mean, it's kind of, I was thinking about that. So your energy affects the results that we are hearing and seeing, and what's coming up on your computer, and like your energy affects the results. And I think that might happen.
Yeah, not only that, but like you said, I think like the picture and does the other person's energy, you and I, our energy is going to affect it. The people watching and listening, even from the future, right? Their energy is going to affect it.
Yeah.
That's
absolutely true.
No?
That's absolutely true.
Oh, I was like, oh, where did I go wrong?
Yeah. So Sam, my own take on that is, yes, that's exactly right. Somebody snaps a picture of you from one angle. You could get, now I've actually had this done in public speaking events. Okay. I've had paparazzi and other people there. We've taken all sorts of different pictures, video angles, so on and so forth. Some of those are really freaking flattering. Some of them not so much.
Right.
And so I think that the operation of any sort of instrumentation, whether it's a camera or a cell phone or, whatever else, is really an extension of the person who's operating it. And part of which is their perception. How are they seeing the world? How are they looking through the world? And are they, like, a well-trained photographer takes a lot of time to actually find the right shots that show the beauty of the moment or show the ugliness of the moment, depending on what they're trying to portray. And so they have a certain ability to do these things. And I think that everybody does on a subconscious level, whether they bring it to the conscious mind or not. And so, yeah, that's my own 2 cents on that.
I totally think it. Real quick, whoever has it, there's a box in the middle of the screen that's a Zoom notification. You might want to click on that real quick.
I did that. So hopefully that works out. And if not, if this stream is interrupted for any reason, we will come right back to you and like at the same place. So just stick with us.
Same bat time, same bat channel.
I just have to say that I think YouTube therefore must like hate me because every time it picks a thumbnail before I upload my own for the live stream, it's like me being like the weirdest like pose I could ever have. So that's the way YouTube sees me.
They hate truthers, I'll tell you that right now.
It's for sure.
Yeah, totally. So even if you guys are going to talk, I'm feeling balanced. I'm feeling good. I'm going to go ahead and start taking my intake clearances, and feel free to keep talking, do whatever, but we're just going to see EQ and you'll hear a beep when we get the answer. So
I was just considering if Sam and I did this for us, what it would look like. Because this is one of the things that I was like, maybe I shouldn't get my own IDF machine. Like, will I even be able to use it, you know?
I think maybe we should do the screen down just so that, because is it on your guys' screen, the
Not
Zoom?
Anymore. I think you can close it.
Okay.
I hope.
Yeah,
Me?
and I'm not seeing it, and I'm not.
Oh, it
seeing
is me. Okay, it was me. Wow.
It was
crazy.
me, and I took care of it right then, but yeah.
Oh snap!
Hopefully.
I need to take my own advice.
Oh, is it? Oh, yours is also doing it? Whatever.
Mine was there too, which is really weird.
Huh. And as far as I know, we're allowed to have 2 people for as long as we want, so whatever. So just in case anyone's listening and not watching, so far Phoenix's numbers have all been 100, 0, or right within like under 1. One of them is 3.8.
Yeah, so my bias is showing I have absolutely no bias in favor of something. I have no bias as a negative to turn something down. My energy purity is at 100%. My general vitality is at 100%. My acid alkalines at 100%. My sodium chloride's at 100%. Now, I've been working on this all day to make sure my energy levels are good, just so that I don't have these kinds of things. And anybody who's interested, I've got a free energy tools album that will show you the very same tools that I use in order to call my energy back, to be in the center of my head, all these other things. You can just go to the media tab, hover over it, go to, what does it say? It says something like media or downloads or something. And
yeah, what is your website so they can go check this all out, Phoenix?
Yeah, that's at phoenixaurelius.org, just my first name, last name.org. And you'll go to the media tab, check on it. I can't remember exactly what the hell it says, but it's not the podcast. It's not my donations.
It says media, and then you go down to tools and resources.
There you go, tools and resources. And that's the only one that's up there.
Right.
Typically, it's $10. If you want to donate $10 to my research society to download this, I would really appreciate it because I rely 100% on donations from the public in order to fund this research, but I'm also giving away for free to Rogue Ways listeners. Just enter in coupon code Rogue Ways, all one word, ROGUEWAYS, and that will discount all $10 in the cart. You can download it for free and perform it. The only caveat is that I released that 10 or 11 years ago now, and the information's still just as valid. It just doesn't have my modern branding because I was doing a different branding at the time. So.
Would you have cornrows back then?
Yeah, hell yeah. No, I did not. Man, no, I started balding at 16, actually. I never had cornrows, man. I got a solar panel.
You look good, though, brother. You look good.
Thank you, man.
Yes, and thank you.
All
and
right.
all tinfoil hat peeps are, the Swarm is welcome to use the Rogue Ways promo code as well.
Oh, yeah.
Please do, Swan. Please.
Hell
Please,
yeah.
please support both of these people if you get a chance.
All right, so now we're going to ask some questions. Basically, all of these are word tunings, so I don't need to find particular tuning keys that each one of these come into. We basically just ask our questions. I take the amplitude reading. If it's a yes, no, it's between 0 to 100. 0 to 40 equals no. 41 to 70 equals maybe. 71 to 100 equals yes. And again, items near 0 are all hell no. Items near 100 are all hell yes. And if we have numerical things like how many days, how many, nuts or screws or bolts or whatever else, then, we will be able to calculate that. And if I need to, if it's like there could be up to 10,000 of something, then I will say like how many hundreds of units or how many hundreds of screws or something like that are necessary, so that we're still getting the right types of calibrations here. So let's start. Who has the first question?
Oh my God, I thought you did, but I have some.
Well, I've definitely got some. I've got some really interesting ones about missing 411, but I'd have to kind of.
Oh, I'm excited to hear all this.
Yeah, I liked the missing 411 one. I have some about SARS-CoV-2, otherwise known as coronavirus, and Rh negative and Rh positive blood, and then I had a few about the heart and vortices and things that I've been reading about that I'm going to talk about with someone who I'm interviewing soon, Dr. Thomas Cowan, who you hooked me up with, Phoenix. And so I have some. I don't know if Sam wants to give one first, or Phoenix, you want to pull one out?
No, you guys go first, and I'm getting some questions about Lebanon. People want to know about Lebanon, but let's start with some stuff that can kind of, whatever you guys think would set the kind of the mood, let's say, and get us started, simple, or whatever you think is the best way to kick it off, and then we'll get into it.
Okay.
Agreed.
Go ahead and read the ones about SARS-CoV-2. I'm a little hesitant about doing stuff like that because I don't want FDA to come in and swoop in. But let's read the questions and see if those are askable.
Okay, so the specific SARS-CoV-2 one was asking if this SARS-CoV-2 is targeting specific bloodlines or Rh negative, Rh positive, or like type A, type O, that type of thing. And then there's some questions about Rh negative and positive being whether or not they have to do with Draco, reptilian, extraterrestrial, bloodlines or not.
Dude, this is what we came for.
I love this.
We got some Bigfoot questions too.
Rad. Does this target specific bloodlines? That appears to be a 0.0 no.
Wow, unexpected. I really thought, because that comes up a lot, throughout this whole entire thing. So I thought,
what exactly were you trying to say there? Are you trying to? The question is, does COVID affect any specific bloodline? And should we maybe go with the question like, are there
viruses that do
bloodlines that people are talking about? Is that, how would we word that, Phoenix, so that people so we could ask it the right thing? But basically, we talk about the 13 bloodlines and whether Darkro or reptilian or any of that stuff. Is there any way to ask that kind of question? Because let's get into that, dude.
Yes.
Are there bloodlines on this planet that are not susceptible to disease? I mean, is that a good question to start with?
Or okay, let's ask that. Then we could ask another. Another question.
And then I also wonder if bloodlines is the wrong word. Like, do we mean blood types? And is that different?
Okay, 0.0 in bloodlines. Are there bloodlines on this planet that are not susceptible to disease? And okay, so I mean, let's just get as dialed in as you want. Are there blood types? Do you just want me to replace the word bloodline?
Or is there can we say Draco or Darko?
Is there a Draco reptilian bloodline?
Ask that. Let's just get into it. Let's get weird. Enough with the foreplay. Let's get to the action.
Specifically, the person was asking, is that what Rh negative is? But
that's a great question.
But does it even exist is maybe important first.
Oh my God, everything I believe in is.
I know.
No? So are there draconian bloodlines existing on Earth? Again, that came in at 0.0. Let's just ask reptilian.
Reptilian, yeah.
Man, I've been listening to David Icke. I've been listening to David Wilcox. I've been listening to Project Camelot before a lot of the listeners even had some tinge of awakening, many dozens of years ago. So realistically, a lot of this information sounds really great. And from my perspective, the further you dive into it, the more it seems to be a scapegoat for things that are actually much more tangible and much more explainable. But that's
which I totally agree with that. What would you, in your research, think that would be? because I never said that. I never thought like, oh, there's actual reptiles. Like,
Yeah.
I always thought that was like maybe a more reptilian, meaning they were more psychopathic and stuff like that. That
right.
you know they
it's like symbolic.
Yeah, and that when people said reptiles, that kind of was just like, so we all knew what we were talking about, you know. So we'd have an understanding.
Which seems like, if anything, that would be the truer version, because at least according to IDF investigation, it was a big fat zero.
Right. Like there's this, you know, it's like how all the elites seem to be related. They they're all on the same tree. They're just maybe different branches. When you find out like Barack Obama and George Bush Sr. have the same relative, which is Sam Hinckley.
I thought it went all the way back to oh my God, the guy who put everybody at the Impaler, Vlad.
Well, that goes back to you know, the royal family, the Queen Elizabeth, but the first relative that they both have in common is a guy named Sam Hinckley, which is kind of interesting because who shot Reagan and then who was vice president, who would have became president if that assassination had become you know, had been completed, and who did John Hinckley told him to shoot Reagan? Nobody ever talks about that, which is so interesting, dude.
What did he say?
Which is George Bush Sr. He said his cousin George told him to do it.
Of course.
So I came up with a question while the time that we were talking. Let's just see if this jives with either of you guys. When people describe certain people on Earth as being reptilian, are they describing the quality of people who are operating primarily from the reptilian cortex of their brains?
Nice.
All right.
So there's technically 3 cortexes for those, or cortices would be the plural of cortex.
Cortices.
If for those listeners that don't know, there are proposed to be the reptilian cortex, the mammalian cortex, and the neocortex, or the limbic brain. So the reptilian cortex deals with things that are immediately gratifying to ourselves, things that help us get somewhere, but don't necessarily help other people. They're not nurturing to their young. They're not nurturing to, you know, children or to other people. It's just like, I'm looking out for numero uno, basically. And so there's a lot more to it, but that's a large portion, if we had to summarize it very easily and simply for people, what the reptilian cortex does. So should we ask this question then?
Yes.
Let's do it. Baby needs a new pair of shoes. Come on. Big bucks. No way. Stay up there.
Wow.
There you go.
Wow.
93.2.
Oh.
Yeah. So it is that. And like psychopathy, I'm sure, is a part of this.
Let's ask about sociopathy, because that's definitely something where a sociopath will do whatever he or she needs to do or say in order to
Phoenix, real quick, within your parameters of right and wrong, how did that answer fall?
That would have been definitely within a yes. 93.2. So anything from 71 to 100 is a yes, with items near 100 being all hell yes. So 93.2 would be, that's affirmative. Yes. Definitely affirmative.
Like there's like a small nuance somewhere that's not perfect, but it's like basically it's true.
Exactly. Like if we spent maybe, you know, an hour rewording that
right.
in certain ways, then maybe we could get there.
So basically said what? That there's a small group of people with more reptilian brain. Is that what we asked?
I bet you that I don't even think that it's a small group. Right. I would say are people who are considered sociopaths by modern psychological standards.
Dude, there's some great questions in the chat room, by the way.
Typically operating from the reptilian cortex. And let's just see where this comes up at. There we go. Oh, the stick pad is a little sticky. I'm going to wait for that. Those of you who are watching the EQ, you can see that it sticks sometimes and that it needs a second. So when it unsticks, I'll ask the question here. Okay. Oh, sticking again. Huh. This kind of sometimes does it when there's a lot of bandwidth being taken up from the...
So while we wait for it, Phoenix, while we wait for it...
Okay. 92.
Oh. Yeah.
So Again, this would be solidly affirmative. Anytime that I'm doing, spagyric wellness stuff, anything above a 90 indicates to me like, yes, you are right on the trail. Even if you haven't hit the nail right on the head, you hit it on the head enough that you drove it down.
Oh man, that's crazy.
Yes. I like someone in the chat is saying that, they've seen in person this sort of slit eyes, and we've all sort of seen, I think, that like images of that or videos of people like Bill Clinton or whatever turning to slit eyes, and that recent one of what's her face, Kamala Harris, like just black-eyed, like I think shit like this happens, and I don't necessarily think it means that they're reptilian bloodline or that I think it means that they're having dark entities inhabit their body, or however you want to say that, influence their soul or whatever, and they're being sort of taken over, possessed or whatever by that. I don't know if we want to ask that question, but I just wanted to comment on that because I think you can see that.
I've done a lot of investigation in this realm, you guys.
Right.
I've trained with Louis Bostwick of the Berkeley Psychic Institute, or at least completed the courses that Louis had created. I've done lots and lots and lots of different psychic development work for the past 15 years plus. I mean, I remember when I was 8 years old, I had my dad lay me down on the floor one time when I had strep throat and take my heartbeat, and he would place his fingers on a different area of my body and say, now feel your heartbeat here, like on my toe, on my shoulders, in the center of my head, like all these different places. So I have an introduction to this from very, very early on. Typically, the term that we would use inside of the hypnotism and psychic mediumship world, not even mediumship, just psychic development world, would technically be called trance mediumship. And it's where people are typically running other people or other beings' energies, or running entities is another way that we would refer to that, at various times where they are electromagnetically within the same vibrational scale. So it's just like tuning forks. You hit a tuning fork here that's 440A, you're holding another one in the other hand. You don't even have to get it very close. The one that you didn't strike will start to vibrate.
Yeah.
And anybody who's played multi-string instruments that operate within octaves, when you're tuning, you usually have to damp the rest of your string so that you don't get the interference from that other string ringing out as a harmonic or harmonic sympathetic vibration, so on and so forth. And this is really the science behind it, is that everything that we know of is operating within the electromagnetic frequency spectrum. But a lot of people who are holding very selfish or very dishonest vibrations actually are attracting entities to them, especially if they're using any sort of mind-altering substance. Adrenochrome, hint, hint.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, we got to get into that.
And so there's a lot of interesting frequencies that people are channeling, and we would call that typically inside of this world trance mediumship, or sometimes it's just known as like unconscious mediumship. It's where they're actually channeling a being through their own energy field because they hold the same sympathetic vibration. So let's go ahead and ask that. When we see slit eyes like a reptile, or completely black eyes in an individual. And now if any of you have seen individuals on methamphetamines that are like completely out of their mind, their eyes are huge, completely black eyes, and they're doing weird things or going into states of rage, this is the exact same thing. Anytime that a person is outside of their own body or energy field, it's like you've just left the house with the door unlocked. And so any being that's in the neighborhood that might want to walk in, there you have it. You've got space to it.
That's 100% of why I quit smoking crystal meth and doing drugs.
There you have it.
Listen, thank you for your honesty. And I did the same thing as well. So.
Hey, we're back. We're here, and we're fully occupying our bodies. So
thank God.
That rules.
Let's see.
And anybody who's thinking about trying it, just don't.
Yeah, just don't.
Yeah, it doesn't go good.
No, it's never as good as you think it's going to be.
I don't know how we want to phrase this. We could phrase this a couple of different ways, but to start off with, when we see slit eyes like a reptile or completely black eyes in an individual that appears to be another entity, are they technically running another being in their space?
Oh, no, how about this? How about you just take appears to be another entity, just cut that out and just go, are they being run by another being? Would that be weird?
Yeah, that's great.
Oh, yeah.
like that.
Yeah, are they I don't know how.
Are they run by another being? Are they
Yeah,
being
they
run
run by another being.
Okay,
Yeah.
and if we don't get a hit on this, let's use the word channeling and see if that provides a different answer. Oftentimes they'll provide pretty similar answers, but we'll just see. Yeah, 90.3. So
Whoa!
Yikes.
So
Gives me the
let's take
willies.
this answer, and I'll save this as its own thing. Are they channeling another being?
So that one was 90.3.
There we go. That's
Wow.
100%.
Whoa!
That's huge.
Whoa, that's incredible.
So gross.
Man. See, that's the whole thing. Is like, I love learning about the occult, but I also don't want to let any of that in.
Yeah.
Because like once you start being open-minded to it, you know, sometimes you let things in. And I don't want to learn about it. I want to learn about it, but I don't want to get.
I don't want it to possess me.
Yeah.
Let me tell you the technicalities of that. And it's really simple, and I kind of go into this in that energy album anyway. When you're not in the center of your head in an awareness-based perspective, and you're using attention, what's the term that we use when you're using attention? Your teacher says blank attention. What do they say? Pay. So if you're paying attention, you're literally using attention as a currency in order to be able to buy something, and what you're buying is what they're selling. So in some cases with certain entities, if you pay attention to the entity, then you are literally getting that entity brought back into your space. You're taking your attention, paying for it, bringing it right back.
Yuck.
You can be aware of things without paying anything. This is simply a neutral observation-based state of awareness, of just saying, man, I'm aware of that, but it doesn't impact you. It doesn't get into your energy field. It's not about that. You're noticing where your energy starts and stops, where its energy starts and stops, and the energy that surrounds both of you. Because anytime you're aware of anything, there's three fields of awareness. There's your energy field and your state of awareness. There's their energy field, their state of awareness, the energy field that you are creating together through co-observation and the combined state of awareness. That's it. And so people really just need to stay in a state of awareness, not attention. And this is where people are giving their power away, personal power away, to so many different entities, so many different beings, so many different ideas, so many different leaders, so many different political persuasions, etc., is that they're constantly paying attention to what they're saying. And when you pay for something, you want the trinket that you just paid for. And so it comes back to you. And when we perform possessions, what do you call that? Exorcisms on people who have been possessed, you would be surprised everything that makes its way out. It's not just beings, it's ideas, it's influences, it's your parents' conceptions of what they think you should do. It's your teacher stuff saying, hey, you need to pay attention more, you need to do this, or you're really bright, but you don't do this and this and this. People are constantly letting other people's opinions and persuasions into their space because they respect those people, and so they say, you know what's better for me better than I know what's better for me, and they let it into their space. And people do that with demons, people do that with entities, people do that.
I gotta be honest with you, man, that just happened to me. I just got this fasting app, right? And I was talking to my girl, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna fast. It says I'm gonna fast from 7:30 to 9:30. She goes, 2 hours? That's not fasting. That's just not eating for 2 hours.
Yeah.
I'm like, but the app told me, and I'm going to do what the app said. And I look back at it, it was 7:30 at night till 9:30 in the morning.
Yes.
So she was totally right about that. So I want to ask you, so how do we differentiate between how do I become aware but not pay attention to it? How do I do that?
This is really simple. First of all, stick your hand out and turn your wrist towards you. So stick your hand directly out in front of you, turn your hand towards you. Approximately that distance all the way around you is where your energy field ends, okay?
Oh, really?
Really, really. Now, you can make it bigger. You can consciously make it bigger if you want. You can extend your energy field out relatively high, but in general, just walking around, waking, doing things, that's approximately the extent of your energy field. Now, once you've defined the boundaries of where you start and stop by doing that and getting just a mental visualization of it, now you go into the center of your head, which is about an inch above the eyes, about an inch and a half back. So if I were to draw a line from this temple to this temple and draw a line from this finger to this finger, and then do the same thing this way on the back of my head and the front of my head, where those two lines intersect at perpendicular angles, that's approximately the center of your head.
It's a cross.
And what you do is you just visualize yourself and your energy being in the center of your head. You can even do it with your eyes open, and then look at things and just be aware of them. And it's literally as simple as giving yourself a command. I'm going to be aware of something as opposed to paying attention to something. And if you're used to paying attention to things your whole life, it will take some practice, just like going to the gym. It's just like a muscle, you know, you have to work it out. But eventually, over a week's time, you'll feel a whole lot more comfortable being in the center of your head, because you're not feeling other people's energies. You're not listening to other people's thoughts as if they were facts. You're not taking on other people's emotions or thoughts or feelings or other things.
It's like an observation versus engagement and becoming consumed with something, right? Like
exactly.
So you're aware, you're observing it. I observe it, I see it, but I'm not consumed with it. I'm not engaging with it and giving it my energy.
I have to say,
yeah,
I've been trying this because you brought this up, Phoenix, I think the last show that we did. And so I've been imagining that. I've been like pulling myself back into that exact space in my head in as many moments as I can remember to do it. And it really has been amazing, even though I'm not that good at it. I'm not that good at remembering to do it that frequently. But when I do it, it's hard to even describe, but it's easier to do like eating healthier, or it's harder to get like swept away in something that I like, you know, like just binge watching something, or just the things that you're sort of mindless about. It's like, it's easier to not do that shit. It's easier to be present and mindful.
Yeah.
I am, yeah, man, I think this is really important stuff for people to understand. I think that what we're seeing right now is people paying attention and not just observing. On all the news, you're just engaging in it, and you're giving it your energy. And I'm just learning more and more. You can't do that, man. You got to observe it, but you got to let it go, and you can't let it consume you, man. And in recovery, they call that holding on to resentments. You can't do that. It just eats your energy up, man.
That's exactly all that it does, is like your energy. If people treated their energy the way that they treat their money, they would be so much smarter about how they allow things to impact them. And it doesn't mean that you can't like watch something. It means that you're watching it from in here. And so it's not going to give you the dopamine response of, oh, I just finished an episode. It's not going to give you this addictive feeling. It's not going to trigger, all of your fear and stuff if you're watching something that might be scary or might, otherwise cause a response. People will typically end up losing interest naturally in things like action movies and scary movies and all these other things, because what they're riding on is they're paying attention to be able to get that adrenaline response or to get that dopamine response. And if they stop spending their energy on that worthless shit, then what ends up happening is that they're just aware of it and they're like, well, this actually doesn't do anything. This isn't helping anything. This isn't helping me. And why would I spend my time or my energy focusing on this when there's huge problems that I can solve? Or when you're not even sustainable, when you're just out there buying food from the grocery store, you're using energy, you're burning coal, you're doing all the things, you're contributing to the society that you don't even like and the problems that exist in the society. You begin to develop this awareness, like, you know what, my energy could be placed in a lot of other more beneficial areas. And that's just a self-realization moment. That's like, shit, I should be doing something a little bit different here.
Yeah, I mean, just like, it's just unbelievable. It's just like when you keep it simple, like simplicity is just don't get involved in stuff that isn't personally like affecting you and your family. Outside of that, you got to let it go, man. And it's so simple, but people hate hearing that. They just like, if you're like, hey man, the virus isn't that bad, it's not going to kill you. You really don't need a vaccine. You just need to like take a couple precautions and you'll be fine. No. Yes. And they just go nuts with it. And it's just like, okay, man, you're just I think it also comes to the fact that we live in such a wonderful country. Now, it's not perfect by any means. It got a lot of warts, but it's a pretty good country.
We got a pretty sweet right now, yeah.
that little things like that. I mean, we have it so good. We go to horror films.
Yeah.
We go to haunted houses to get scared.
We have it so good that I go to a store and I get angry that they don't have my favorite brand of something that I want to eat. Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's how good we have it. So we get emotionally that we need that fight or flight thing that makes us feel alive. So we get engaged. We're fighting these people. And it's just like, let it go, man.
Well, look at the ego identification of all of that. Like, if a person were to be in the center of their head, that would be the awareness that they would have, is like, this isn't even me. Like, somebody has implanted or solicited these ideas to me. I never would have come up with these ideas on my own, like Popeye's chicken, or that you know, I need to be against this civilization. It's like, no, you don't get any of that shit. You just simply are in an observation state of awareness, like, that's interesting, but what's up with my end? And that one trick could actually change and save our humanity as we know it. It could even, in my opinion, completely alter and develop individuals that we consider to be reptilians to operate from the mammalian or even the neocortex with their limbic brains, and like transfer. Just because a person acts one way now does not mean that they're going to be locked in that forever.
Great point, dude. Great point. Listen, Buddhists say, and we'll get back to the machine, it takes 1% of the population to change the masses, the way the mass thinks, man. And it's just like, we can just get everybody to like turn off, tune out, and walk free, man. Yeah. I'm telling you, you'll be a lot happier.
It's like you're going to stop giving all of your emotion, all your energy to those energies.
Attention.
They're trying to harvest all of that, whether you're like talking about it as an egregore or as like an actual energy harvesting operation. You know, you're taking that back just by doing that simple action. You're robbing them of, you're not robbing them, they robbed you, but you're taking it back. You're owning it. You can use it for anything.
It's like, instead of paying the bankers, you're just like, screw it. I can actually get the tomatoes instead of paying you, which ultimately pays the bankers who invested inside of the business who's growing the tomato. I could just fucking put a seed in the ground, pardon my French, and ba-boom, you've got your own tomatoes. You just completely disentangled from the system. And the same thing is true with awareness. It's like planting seeds that will ultimately sprout an entire garden, and may not happen in the first day. You know, usually you have to wait 30 to 90 days or more before a crop starts to fruit or is ready to eat. But you practice it for 3 months, you're going to see some real gains. You practice it for 5 years, you're going to see even better gains. You have a sustainable garden for 15 years, 20 years, 50 years, you're going to see even better gains. And it's going to be like a permaculture food forest by the time that you're done, where you are completely self-sustainable and you don't rely on the programming that other people are providing you with and soliciting responses and getting those out of you because you're paying your attention to them. So
I'm way more excited.
Stop consuming.
Yes.
Start producing.
I'm way more excited about that than I ever was about any drugs.
Oh yeah, it's better than any drug for sure, because it builds your personal power and it builds your personal certainty.
And the whole world.
The more that you're aware of things, like you'll have what most people would call a gut feeling, or what some people would call intuition, and it becomes so strong, just like a muscle, that you're like, I'm pretty sure that's fake. I'm pretty sure. And you can calibrate this over time by seeing corroborative data that ultimately comes out. It's like, oh yeah, that's funny, because I had the inner feeling that I knew that. And again, it doesn't aggrandize your ego. It doesn't make you say, see, I knew it. It's like, funny. Yeah, I already felt that. And it's a whole different response.
It's so much better. You know what I do, man? In my life, I live by 3 words. Be Denzel Washington. That's who I am. Denzel Washington in his movies, always just calm, cool, collected, and never feeds it. No matter how bad the fight is, he's always cool, calm. And it's allowed me to survive my relationship right now. Back to the machine.
What do we got?
I love this question. I
heard another question that you asked earlier, Linz, saying, do you care if I call you that, by the way, Linz?
No, you're good.
Okay,
That's
cool.
Awesome.
I feel like we're cool enough that I need to abbreviate it.
You're in the inner circle.
Fair enough.
I love it, dude. I love it.
are people who have Rh negative blood, let's say do, not are, that doesn't make sense. Do people who have Rh negative blood originate from extraterrestrial origin?
Nice.
Let's see what that's all about. I've always wondered about this.
Oh.
0.0 no.
Man, what is it then?
Well, I think that at some point, you know what? I did some interesting stuff for a woman named Michelle DeVries, I think is her name, and she and I were working on some missing 411 kind of stuff because she's writing a master's thesis actually about all of this stuff and using David Poliades' works and a couple of other people. And she talked to me and she said, don't use the term extraterrestrial, use the term interdimensional. So let's ask that.
Ooh, I like that a lot more.
Yeah. Oh, shit. 91.3.
So let's just ask if people with Rh positive blood originate from interdimensional origin.
Oh, good point.
Nope.
Dude,
wow.
Wow.
And let's ask that same, just to be fair, about extraterrestrial origin with Rh blood. And then that way we can rule out the variables here.
I get like fucked up. Like I get like a feeling in my chest where I'm like, what's it gonna be? Like every time.
Yeah, you're like, it's like we're on a game show.
Yes.
Come on, no whammies.
Seriously, playing roulette. Was he 7?
Yes.
All right, so do people have Rh who have Rh blood originate from either extraterrestrial or interdimensional origins? No. So let's just say terrestrial origin, because that would be
would imply flat Earth over the ice wall.
Let's see. There we go. So that I was dialing kind of fast, but it beeped at around 82.3. So I'm just going to go a little slower here. 80.8. So I was a little early with my dial last time. So people have Rh blood originate from terrestrial origin. This is an 80.8. That to me says, yeah, you need to ask something else about that. So I'm going to say, do they originate from man, to try and make this as like non-denominational as possible for people who might be flat earthers and detest concepts like planets, let's just say from Earth.
Okay.
Oh, my stick pad EQ wasn't working, so let's give it just a second.
All right, while we're waiting for that, I just want to tell everybody listening, I will be at the Skyline Comedy Cafe in Appleton, Wisconsin, September 10th through the 12th. So go check it out. I'm there all weekend doing stand-up. It's limited seating because they got small. It's only 125 seats a show, so grab your tickets now. That is the Skyline Comedy Cafe in Appleton. It's one of my favorite places to perform.
In Wisconsin, that's awesome.
It's actually got the highest rate of alcoholism in anywhere in the United States.
Oh, wow.
Whoa, go figure.
So that was
Rh blood originate from Earth, 94.1.
Okay.
And let's just ask the same thing about Rh negative, because they could be interdimensional beings here on Earth, but this will help us understand.
I don't know why everybody would want just to be totally involved with this, because it's so much more interesting than watching Don Lemon on CNN, right?
Yes. What's weird is that this is the same thing
content.
I encountered with my students as well, is that sometimes you run out of questions and people don't even know what question to ask. And for me, it's because I'm like, have so many that when it comes down to asking them, I forget, like, what do I even want to know?
You get overwhelmed.
But there's other people who have literally no questions. They just don't. I don't know. I want to know the percentage of people who have no questions in their mind.
Yeah, man, I almost want to see if they even have neurotransmitters that are firing properly.
They're like NPCs.
Right, so
yeah.
Do people have Rh negative blood originate from Earth? The answer was 0.0 no.
What? So they're interdimensional and don't come from Earth, but they're not extraterrestrial? What does it mean?
They're not extraterrestrial. They're interdimensional, which means
Realms, man. That's what I believe in. Realms.
Yeah.
Higher frequency, lower frequency. That's what I really do believe in.
Oh, I get it. Wow.
Do extraterrestrial beings exist? That was 0.0. If I ask that same thing about interdimensional, which I'm just doing this because I did this the other day already and already got these results actually, but I just want to show people what I have already come to find out through IDF data. There you go.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Okay, but I still am not really understanding how you can be from Earth but interdimensional but not extraterrestrial. It's just the realms idea.
Interdimensional means that you can exist in multiple different dimensions. It could actually be the very same Earth, but that you exist in a different dimension on Earth. And the way that we came to this was that we said, you know, in cases like David Paulides missing 411, some people are like, you can hear them saying things, but they're not there. They were there just a second ago. Now they're not. There's this woman, I forget her name. I just ordered the book. I don't yet have it, but she wrote a book called Time Storms. And essentially she was saying that there's basically like these time storms or interdimensional something or another that cause it so that people occupy actually what we would consider to be the same space, just in a different dimension. So imagine that there are multiple different filaments to the same string. You exist on one of those filaments, and from your perspective, you're such a tiny perspective that the distance between you and another filament is really high.
Wow.
But if you zoom out, it all looks like one string, actually. And so this is kind of the way that it's been described to me, that multiple dimensions exist and that they can exist in the same way. I also apprenticed for a while with an alchemical hypnotherapist and hypnotist, actually, named Ronald Locklear Vinyl. And this guy was awesome. He wrote a book called Journeys to the 10th Dimension or something like that. And basically he was doing very similar work, investigative work, to Dolores Cannon, who wrote Convoluted Universe. The entire series of the Convoluted Universe. And basically they would put people into hypnosis, especially people who were well trained in psychic projection or in, you know, psychic espionage, et cetera, astral projection, so on and so forth. And they would perform visioning, where they would go to other places in a completely subconscious state of mind under hypnosis. And what they would find, what they would bring back, is all of this information. And Ron ended up taking all of this information and publishing it anonymously so as not to talk about who his clients were, and put it into a book. And so if you've read Dolores Cannon's work, if you've read Lynn Buchanan's work, or Buchanan, however you want to pronounce that, if you've read Ronald Locklear Vinyl's work, if you read other work along those lines, you'll find out that the concept of dimensions is not as woo-woo as the New Age, we're moving to the fifth dimension kind of people make it seem. And not to discredit that, because that's some sort of perception they have as well. But, you know, it sounds really ungrounded when they say it. When you put it all together with other information, it doesn't sound that crazy. So interdimensional beings. So where did these beings go? Well, she used this analogy, this Michelle woman used this analogy, that it's like fishing. You're standing above the water and you throw a fishing hook down, and these are the instruments to abduct or make a fish miss. And this fish is just going about its life, and it's like, oh damn, food. It eats something. All of a sudden it has this crazy experience where it gets drawn out of it by some sky daddy and gets, you know, or sky mama, and it gets, you know, it has this crazy painful experience. It gets hooked, it gets released, or it gets like disemboweled, and you like you gut the fish, and all that's found are the guts or something sometimes. To us, that's a perfectly explainable scenario. And the person who's fishing isn't an evil person for fishing, unless you're like a radical vegan. But they're just like, it's just somebody who is just doing their thing, finding food, living sustainably from the earth, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But from the fish's perspective, especially if it is a catch and release situation, it goes down and tells all the other fish like, oh shit, this was crazy. All the other fish don't have this type of experience. And so they don't even know how to process that.
They're like, that guy's crazy. Tom, he's talking about those people again.
Exactly. And so she relates it to that as like, I think that that's probably what's going on. And she works with she calls it her future self. So it, you know, maybe some people would call it higher selves, maybe some people would call it spirit guides, maybe some people would call it, you know, whatever. She calls it her future self because that's the way she can rationalize it best.
Yeah.
But she says her future self will authenticate or deny information based on what she offers and tell her, like, suggest things to her like, well, that's not the way it happens, or this is the way that it happens, or add little bits of clarification. She said that her future self indicated that it works almost exactly like that, and that there's no necessary soul contracts that people are making, being like, oh yeah, I'm going to go to Earth and then I agreed to be abducted at some point. It's just like, if you're in the right place or the wrong place at the right time, then what ends up happening is that these beings, just like we have the right to go and fish or to wild harvest an herb or to do anything else, that herb wasn't expecting me to hike through the freaking forest and to find it and pluck it out of the ground. But it still happened. So, you know, is that kind of what's going on? And if I tear off parts of that herb that I don't need and I leave it on the floor, now the rest of the herbs in the forest floor might be like, whoa, did you see that extraterrestrial creature thing? It's the same exact thing. That's a perfect analogy for it, is just understanding that there are multiple dimensions that might be interacting with this dimension in a way where they don't really care or understand how they might be interfacing with our dimension because it's of negligible interest to them. It's like, it's not even that important.
Yeah.
We'll make great pets.
Yeah.
We'll make great pets. We'll make great pets. You know what I'm saying?
Totally.
I totally agree. Could we ask some people want questions about Bigfoot? Can we ask about Bigfoot? I always want to know, because there's this whole theory that is that too specific about
I think Bigfoot is interdimensional.
Yeah, is he an interdimensional traveler?
We answered this the other day too, but let's do it for this audience. So, do beings known as Yetis and or Bigfoot actually exist?
Oh, here we go. Drum roll, please.
Ooh, 98.1.
Oh my God!
Now, check this out.
I was so afraid of that one. I'm like,
Like,
no. All my beliefs and everything. And
right.
I'm like, holy shit.
This is going to be yes. I can feel it.
Give it to me.
100.
Whoa!
100.
Whoa!
They are interdimensional entities.
The reason you don't hear me being like, oh, damn, that's crazy, because I already did this one the other day and we got the exact same results. So I feel that that's something that people need to realize, is that there are entities, whether you want to refer to them as entities, beings, whatever, there are entities that do exist and can interface with this particular dimension, that are interdimensional, meaning that they can move between specific dimensions. Even human beings can. This is where remote viewing and astral projection and other things like the lucid dreaming.
True.
Like, where are you in your dreams? Okay, if you're not traveling to another dimension, then I don't know what the hell that you're doing.
Right.
And that's what lucid dreaming is really all about, is being able to access a dimension that is more buoyant than this. And traditionally in the esoteric literature, we would refer to that as the astral plane. And people who master astral projection in their waking state can typically carry that over into their dream state very, very easily, because it's just maintaining a state of awareness and using the very same techniques that you would in astral projection in waking state, but doing it before you go to bed, and then literally meditating yourself into a dream state or into another brain wavelength. And when you're doing that, you have the ability to operate in different dimensions. In fact, one thing that I would like to point out is that there are multiple different brain wavelengths that people have access to: alpha, beta, gamma, delta, etc., theta. Now, people have the ability to access every single one of those states of consciousness, and they're entirely different. So if you were in the same situation and you were acting out of an alpha wavelength in your brain, you're going to perceive something entirely different than if you were in beta, gamma, delta, theta. And that's absolutely critical for people to understand. So humans themselves are actually interdimensional beings. They're just usually not consciously utilizing it. And they're by and large, people just don't act from the conscious mind at all.
Yeah.
Almost trained not to be.
Absolutely.
like I have this, who was I talking to today? But I have this real belief that they're part of this push to get kids back into school, which you talk to teachers like, we got to get back to school. Most of them, because they're just running around crazy. I need a break. I need them in school,
Yeah.
which I totally understand. But you're like, why are the powers that be really wanting to get kids back into school? And I'm sure some of it has to do with like really caring. I totally respect that. But there's also a thing that these kids are in our brainwashing, setting a certain way of thinking mindset. Rockefeller developed school system.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it's mind control.
And yeah, that's exactly
Mind control.
Lindsay can actually respond to this from a very, very educated perspective, being a board certified teacher. But I can also say, being involved in alternative education resource organization, a number of other organizations like this for years, I can also speak to it myself too, saying, listen, the types of education that are very Rockefeller based or very, state sponsored, federally sponsored, they have an agenda, and the agenda is to be able to teach people what they want them to know and not more than what they want them to know, because it's about being a quote unquote productive citizen within the context of the community that already exists. And so they want to teach you about the government that exists right now, and they get away with that calling this social studies. They don't teach you about all of the different types of governments that do exist or what could exist or how to make it better. They don't ask people how to critically think. They give you a narrow band of what to think, and there are a few options within that, just enough to give people the illusion of freedom of learning something, but they don't teach people how to think exactly or how to ask really potent questions. And absolutely. I think that this is really the main key to our education system today and why they're pushing it, because if they can get kids to influence their parents that it's really important to wear masks, and today in health we learned about this virus and that virus, then it reinforces and puts pressure again on the families back home to conform to the sociological ways of life that are being promoted by the media and so on and so forth. So
yes, absolutely reinforces it.
And within the system, those who are best at fitting into this system get rewarded. Those who follow the rules the best, not necessarily the smartest.
No.
But the ones who follow the rules the best. And we see that a lot with, I don't want to be disrespectful to anybody, but the notion that somebody is a doctor or a scientist means they know more than anybody else. Well, a lot of it has to do with they're the best at regurgitating the talking points that are recognized as the right answer that the powers that be want in school. If you do not follow that, you get pounded on. You get thrown into detention for not even necessarily being like disruptive or fighting or being verbally abusive, but more that you're just not fitting within the parameters. Did we lose? I think we might have lost him for a second.
Phoenix left. Hopefully he's coming right
Phoenix
back.
left. Oh, I got this great machine. Okay,
tell me.
Let's see what we got.
I want to point out too, the system is also reinforcing, creating kids who cannot think in another way. So we're actually like killing kids' ability to think. And there's this thing that they do, it's called the genius test by some, it's called the divergent thinking test by others. And in kindergarten and preschool, kids are literally scoring at the genius level on this test and of divergent thinking. And every year of education that they test them, they score lower and lower and lower until the point when you graduate and you are down at the bottom and you cannot divergent think. And that is fucked up. And then I also wanted to point out that my students who were
he is.
Yeah, you're back.
I was afraid I was gonna have to do this without you, brother.
Yeah, we're like,
all right, I had to skip for a second.
But the kids who were the brightest, the most intelligent students I had, I couldn't even convince them that they were the smartest kids I had, because they had been trained for so long that they were stupid and that they were not capable. And that was the saddest part of teaching, is those kids, the brightest kids, thought they were the stupidest.
It's like I used to study for classes, and believe me, I'm functionally illiterate. Okay, like I just know enough literacy to function in our society. But I would study for tests, and I would be studying with these people like, oh, you got it, and then I would take the test, and I would flunk horribly. because I didn't answer the question the way the teacher wanted it answered, whether it was, and I would always take a beating. But once you get out and we got in this new world and where I make my own rules, suddenly I'm flourishing, right? It's like, get out of the system and you'll be fine. If you rely on the system, that's where the problem
You were a genius all along. They were just holding you back.
Exactly. That's Sam's story, and he's sticking to it.
Yes.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Well, this is why other teachers hated me, because I'd be the one that'd be like, no, that answer actually should get extra points because they answered it in a way we didn't even expect and is actually correct and true. And they'd be like, get out of here.
My parents are both teachers. I have no problems with teachers. They do incredibly hard job. It's very underappreciated. But the system that they are in isn't set to do what a lot of us hope it does. And it's not, they're not bad people.
And
they're actually doing it out of love, because it's not really out of money, because they pulled so much money out of the education system.
And if you try to do it in any other way, you get pushed out. You get
that's everything. Science. It's like, these findings. It's like, what are we looking for? But back to this, what else are we gonna look at? Dude, that Bigfoot stuff was amazing.
That interdimensional.
Well, let's go back to another question from a listener. I'm not sure who this one's from. These were all ones that Lindsay had shared with me earlier. But is there a geomagnetic effect currently affecting plant growth in an anomalous way?
I guess a lot of people are reporting it's like super huge growth or like not any growth. Oh, so no.
No.
I
don't think that it's geomagnetism. I think that what a lot of people are probably seeing is dispersion of archaea and bacteria, especially if they live on the eastern seaboard. A lot of sand moved from the Sahara Desert this year, and it moved all the way across the ocean. If they're not anywhere near the Sahara, the winds are still operating. So the same dust, like if you take a look and read any of Phil Callahan's books, or even just study agriculture and ecology, you'll find out that a huge part of soil erosion carries soil to other places, and that happens by wind and by water. And if you happen to be downstream or downwind from where these soils are eroding, then you are the beneficiary of the organisms that were contained inside of there, because they're small and they can move on small little grains of sand. And just like a bacterial culture in a petri dish, you don't need a lot to inoculate that entire petri dish. Over time, it's going to self-proliferate. It will be large enough that you have a very large sample to draw from. And the same is true with soil science. You see it all the time with fungi and other things. Archaea will typically make your plants really big. And bacteria will typically make your plants more nutrient dense, and fungi will typically break apart toxicities in the soil. Now, there are bacteria and archaea and fungi that will do all of those things, but just as a general rule of thumb, so to speak, that's kind of what you're looking at.
Wow.
I love this.
Can I go back to the RH thing or the interdimensional thing, or maybe we don't even need to ask this, I don't know, but is the other dimension that the RH negative is coming from, is it like a future dimension? Is it a dimension of time, or is it like,
Ooh.
Do you know what I mean? Or is it like an energetic dimension, or I don't even know how to phrase what I'm thinking.
Yeah, it's the dimension that RH negative individuals originate from, a dimension from a future or alternate timeline.
Yeah.
Oh, this shit is sticky. One sec. Okay, here we go.
Oh.
So no.
Okay, so it's not like time splitters.
Okay.
Now let's just ask one more question just to get an idea.
People.
Is it from let's see, from the dimension of the astral plane, which would typically be considered the lower fourth dimension in most metaphysical texts?
Oh, God.
And the answer to that is 0.0. So I don't know what else to ask right now, but maybe we can do that on a follow-up show.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Do we ask about realms? Do we live in a realm? Do we live on a flat Earth? I mean, is it a globe hurling through space? Which one? What do you think? What what do you guys think we should ask?
We did.
Okay, so I've done multiple different shows on this already. I don't really want to go into this because I get so much hate mail, like overwhelming amount of hate mail, because
People have
it
to
destroys
chill.
people's belief systems when they think that I have the prerogative. They say that I'm, doing this thing or that thing or altering the results, and I'm really not interested in getting into that kind of contention this time around. And even if we did know that information, we have to ask ourselves, how is it actually going to help us? So in fact, most of the questions that we have right now aren't helping find missing people. They're not doing things that are really going to help our society. So if we can, I would like to shift gears to a couple of questions about sustainability, to see if the sustainable efforts that are being made right now are actually even making a difference. And I have some questions from a Facebook friend of mine who lives here in the state of Utah, his name is Moshe Rona, and he says, are our sustainable practices like permaculture futile within city and urban limits? So let's actually.
Great question.
Because I think also on that same topic that people are buying all these electric cars, and I feel like they're worse or just as bad, they're toxic.
Well, that is self-evident. See, this is where I want people to not rely on technologies like this when the answer is abundantly available with half an hour of dedicated good research. If you know how to ask the right questions, you'll come up with the right answers.
That's true.
If you look on Toyota's website, when they talk about a Prius, they admit that it takes more resources and that it's less environmentally sound to actually produce batteries regularly for things like Priuses and electric cars than it is to use what we currently call petroleum fuels.
I know that myself, but I try to tell people and they're like, no, it's better. Everyone knows that. And I'm like, no, nobody knows that.
Manufacturers who did the research on this, because you don't just come up with an idea and say, hey, let's go ahead and make it, and then a corporation makes it. There's a lot of research and development that goes into it.
Yeah.
But then they weigh that research and development and the environmental costs and tolls and everything else all against the consumer demand.
Yeah.
And if the consumer demand is higher because of the public perception, then the ultimate goal is, well, there's money to be made in it. Should we deny ourselves and not be a leader in this realm just because we don't feel that it's ethical and that other people want it? If they want it, they're going to buy it somewhere. Shouldn't they buy it from us? And for me, I feel that that's the most unethical way to go about life. Yeah, people are going to do lots of shit. People are going to look at child porn. Does that mean that you shouldn't provide it? Fuck yes, it does. Pardon my French.
Yeah.
Damn you. Yeah, I totally agree with that, by the way.
That's an appropriate way to say fuck, for sure.
Yeah, you're allowed to use it in that.
So I think, like, realistically, people will do a lot of things because they're searching for themselves. They lose themselves. They don't know, like, just because people are going to buy meth, should we start providing it to them? Like, come on. Like,
no, please don't.
It's that very same thing.
Unless they have
like
ADHD.
We have to, as a society, big up ourselves, to borrow a line from Ollie G. Because if we don't, then we're constantly operating in this realm of very poor ethics that actually creates subservience, because we're preying upon the ignorance, apathy, and lack of just humanity that other people, the states of human depravity that people are existing in order to make capital gain. And to me, that is the root evil of everything
I couldn't agree
on this
more.
planet.
Yeah.
We've gotten away from truth. We've gotten away from honesty, business, money over humanity.
Mm-hmm.
I just did an episode with Bishop Larry Gators, and he was talking about how actually the food that people are eating is basically changing their DNA, changing the way they think. It's kind of like in the animal kingdom, where that one virus gets into a mouse, and then the mouse just runs towards a cat, or you see that in insects. A virus gets into an insect, the insect climbs to the highest thing and it just explodes and against its own best will. And it's kind of what's going on with food, that the food that they're eating in more of these lower income areas is not good, and actually is training them to think in a way that isn't best for them. There's and not to get political here, but there's also studies about birth control. Now, I have no take on that. I think if a woman wants to take birth control, she should 100% be allowed to. That's not the point. But they've done studies that when women are on birth control, they're actually more attracted to the more dangerous bad boy traits than when they're off it. It's actually proven.
And that is so neurochemical. Like I wish that I could just not even have to talk about things and just transmit what the hell I've already studied for like the last 20 years to people, because this is so neurochemical. When you alter the hormones and the neurotransmitters that are responsible for human fertility, whether male or female, you're altering the neurotransmitters and the hormones that are necessary for a wide range of biological functions, including critical thinking. And so a lot of people literally, when they engage in food sources or lifestyles or behaviors or chemical medicines or contraceptives or other things like that, not like putting on a condom, that's not going to alter so much of things. Same with the diaphragm. But when you're engaging in pharmaceutically created birth controls, what they're doing is altering the hormone structure that are going to have multiple different ramifications in your life, not just making you fat, which you might notice because you're more conscious and aware of your weight gain than you are of subtle things like, how am I relating to people? Am I a better person? Am I still fully aware of myself? How's my dopamine working? What are my serotonin traits looking like? So on and so forth. That people would be equally as conscious of that as they are about the things pertaining to their vanity, then we would see people who were very self-aware around these facts and would choose naturally, like, nah, this is messing with me in a lot of different ways. But people are very, by and large, they don't even know what to look for. They're unaware of being unaware.
Yeah.
And that's,
they're focused on the wrong things. They've been trained, on the wrong things, to worship the wrong things.
Man, I remember from like 4th grade on, they were teaching us about birth control, and so like you
and now they're teaching about like how to have anal sex and be trans.
I mean, there's some people that think sex education's about how to eat better butt, excuse my French.
Yeah, seriously though.
To be like, dude, this is what happens when a penis enters a vagina, or rectum, whatever you but it's not about how to be better at reach around, Sorry about all that, but it's just the truth. I mean, people are just putting their own crap into this stuff when it comes to children. It's just meant to teach you what biologically is happening.
Right.
Well, and I think that they should also extend that into the energetic spectrum too. Like, here. Is your electromagnetic field and energetic space interacting with another person's energetic space? So like, for instance, if we defined our field as approximately putting our hand in front of us, turning our palm towards us, and defining all that space around us, what happens when other people get inside of your field? How is that interacting with your own electromagnetic vibration? What other people's energies are you taking on consciously by choosing to do this? And how does that interact you? And what types of relationship, what types of karma are you generating? What types of dharma are you generating by engaging in these actions? If people would learn that level of stuff, I guarantee that people would have safe sex.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So,
agreed.
All right. But let's go back to Moshi's question, which is, are sustainable practices, i.e. permaculture, futile within city and urban limits? And let's just see what we get. This is a maybe. So let's say.
I think futile is like a really extreme word. That means like absolutely worthless. And it's like, well, you're still going to get food and you're still going to increase the soil health. So maybe futile is not diminished
in its effectiveness within city. Yeah, there we go. Okay, and that's even still like 84.2. So I've got a caveat to that, which I have studied this for almost 20 years now. And we're going to say, without using proper microbiological ferments and preparations. And there you have it, 100%.
Wow. So in dumb person, what'd you just ask?
Yeah. So what's
I basically just asked if various microbe sets, like, okay, I'm gonna drop some huge bombs right here that everybody needs to know about. Okay. Ooh, Oppenheimer Biotechnologies, or OBIO.com. You've got to go there. You've got to order Aquazyme. First one, you have to add that to your water at least once to twice a week. and you have to begin putting that into the soil. Those are largely microbiological archaea is what they're called. So there's bacteria, fungi, archaea that are our main microbes inside of the soil. What the archaea are going to do is they're going to break down major toxicities. We're talking aluminum, we're talking barium, we're talking strontium, we're talking petroleum, we're talking so many different types of toxicities that are inside the soil. They're going to actually break it down, render it into its molecular counterpart. So hydrogen, oxygen, sometimes, it might be like carbon dioxide. That's why I say molecular, not just atomic. And they're going to render it into usable states that can be taken up by plants in a healthy way. So they are performing biological transmutation and decomposition of dangerous compounds for us. Aquazyme, number 1, spagyrozyme, number 2. If you want to order that in large quantities, just go ahead and reach out to me. I call that alchemizyme when it's used for the soil because it's part of my alchemiculture philosophy. People can use that. Can you
send us links for this so that we could add, when we put this out in our feeds, that we could put that in the
And I just threw it
Lindsay,
in the chat.
you are so great with notes. Can you just add a note to send me an email to remind me about this, and I'll provide those links.
Got it.
Also, you need to, besides Aquazyme, and sometimes you might need Oppenheimer Formula 1 or Oppenheimer Formula 2, depending on the state of toxicity. But Aquazyme is water soluble. It can be used in fresh water. It can be used in salt water, like the ocean. It can be used in brackish water, which is like well water and contaminated water sources. It can be used in soil environments. It can be used like anywhere. I used it in my aquaponic systems in order to treat bladder infections of my fish that they were constantly getting, of all of my tilapia that they were constantly getting, just because of the state of the water, even though it was being filtered through biochar and all these other things. Aquazyme is absolutely critical for that. And it would also, along with shilajit and a few other trace minerals that I would throw in for my fish, act as a booster for them. They would be more meaty. They would have stronger.
Nasty motherfuckers with a hook and a sickle. Brought to you advertisement, bone plated nickel. Fire rate automatic smash from the get-go. Snack on the whack, fermented flesh disco. Abracadabra, archaic altars don't slabber. Hey, making jabbers with reality backwards. Hunting rap nerds, bodyguard collected actors. Munitions are famished, let them feast upon the dapper. Bloody bibs and muddy kicks, feasting on amygdalas. Iron fist, tyrant shit, APO will rip you up. The rhyme rainmaker, vein style backbreaker. Genghis-Khan depleted uranium satellite lasers. Cloaked in anonymity, I know you never heard of me. No rusted tools used for Crowley style surgery.
Dissect a whole set, God body. God taught me to dissect the whole body. When it gets sloppy, I'ma get there. Rhymes rare like steak, get crushed like crates to create 52 states. And it's Baghdad, dust to towels, no rags. Straight melt dash, dust to ash. Turbans while the niggas perkin'. It's on purpose, my service touches the sun's surface. And rainbows touch serpents. My light all night shines so bright. I'm a star for eons, Hollywood's for peons. Cause they try to copy the same shit we on. Hey, I ain't done yet. Lungs depleted and can't breathe, can't believe it. Trying to seek it while trying to peep it. It's a secret. Now you're nobody. Label somebody. Trying to claim John Gotti. It's yours truly, God body.
So forth. When you're doing things like that, you're directly impacting your community and making a change, whether you realize it or not. So keep on keeping on.
I accidentally just played the outro music, so everyone was like, what the hell? We're still talking, and there's like outro music playing. My bad. It's all good now.
All good.
So yeah, go ahead and give us some questions, Sam.
I would like to ask a question about, can we ask about anything that's going to happen in the future with the election? Is that something you want to talk about, or is that too political? Or maybe what's going on with Hollywood right now? A lot of
instead of asking like what will happen, because here's the truth about things that are happening in a future timeline is that they're not set in stone. So we could ask what would happen, and then people would develop beliefs based on that and possibly feel hopeless. What we should really ask about are giving ourselves ideas about what we can do to alter the course of the election, because those are going to be things that empower people and give us a direction to work towards to be able to make an efficient change.
Can we actually take down the worldwide pedophilia network?
I would love that. I want to know and please tell me this too specific. If Joe Biden will actually make it to the election, is that too specific? Is that because, I mean, there's this whole, but people are placing bets right now. Like he's not even gonna. That's somebody else. But let's ask this question. Ooh, 95%.
95.6. So that's really high. Now, what we need to do probably in a follow-up episode is we need people who are critical thinkers. And I always say this, you want people to think big, give them something to think big about.
Yeah.
So in this case, we need people to come up with ideas, practical options. Do we need to start taking people to court? Do we need to actually take court to court in order to oust the judges who are corrupt and so on and so forth? What do we need to do in order to make an actual effect so that we can start to domino their whole system? Because it's really just built on people who are willing to sell their soul in order to gratify their baser instincts, their baser senses. And if we can help increase the evolution of those individuals, that's a very viable pathway. If we can actually help parents become more involved in their children's lives so that they're not, susceptible to the types of child predation that exist, that's also another way. Like, there are multiple avenues to go about this, and it's the conglomeration of those avenues that I feel that are probably going to be the right way to work on things. Or at least that's as far as I've thought about it.
Yes.
I love all of that.
That's awesome.
Can I ask a question? Is the black nobility? I don't know if you guys have ever heard of black nobility. Yeah. What is a question we could ask about that? Are they still around? Do they still have do they help run the world?
Okay, do the quote unquote black nobility actually still run the world? Let's see. I mean, this is kind of generalized, so if we don't get a response that's like maybe, or if it comes up even like within the late 20s or 30s, then it means that there's some sort of caveat. We need to rephrase it, but just see what we get. Okay, 80.8.
And the idea of the black nobility is like a hidden nobility that we don't necessarily know, right?
Well, it's along the lines of like the 13 bloodlines. They're actually, there's the beliefs that it was like Atlantis to, Egyptians to Rome, it's like that they're actually Rome. They're the Jesuits. They control the Vatican.
It's the Illuminati.
Yeah, well, they actually created the Illuminati to infiltrate what they created, which was the Freemasons and all that stuff.
Okay, so we're about at the same thing. Are there 13 bloodlines? So let's ask this: are there more than 13 bloodlines?
Oh yeah, this is a good question.
Yes.
Oh.
Whoa. Didn't we do? No, we did a different thing. Never mind.
Okay, so do the
more than 13.
Can we ask something about
Can we say how many bloodlines? Oh, sorry.
Yeah. How many bloodlines?
Sorry, Sam.
No, it's fine. I'm just trying to think of the wording. Like Khazarians are like such a debate right now
of the planet at present.
So how it can give you a number?
Yeah, we can do numbers
instead of percentages or whatever. That is
25.
not what I was expecting.
Whoa. But that makes sense because you see all these you see people talk about 13 bloodlines, but there's like a family in China, the Li, that are supposedly like there's like a small group of them that basically run all of China.
And
Are they part of the 13
And-
bloodlines?
And they had to have like split off into somewhat of splinters at some point. Like,
Well, you know, like recently there was talk that like both Tom Hanks and Ellen are both either Rothschilds or Rockefellers.
Right. Right. And
I believe it.
there's probably some truth to that. That's not going to help us actually at all. Like people might be like, oh yeah, there's some sort of data there. I think this question that I'm about to ask will help to turn this into something that we can actually do, which is, do the family or do the bloodlines, the 25 bloodlines that currently control the future destiny of this planet, maintain control through finances?
Nice.
100.
100.
Whoa!
Absolutely.
Whoa!
So then all we have to do to dismantle them is realize that money is not a real thing. It's an imaginary play
Can we
toy
have
we
something-
created.
Yeah. Can we have something about the Khazarian Mafia?
Yes, absolutely. That's a little dangerous territory, but that's
Yeah.
right up inside of it. Can people destruct the future timeline of the 25 bloodlines controlling the planet, the future destiny of the planet, simply by choosing to disengage from the current financial models
Yeah.
or
Or currencies.
by government?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
there you have it.
Wow.
So all we have to do is barter and trade, buddies.
Yeah. Stop consuming, start producing.
Yes.
Will resource-based economies be a practical way for individuals and individual communities to disengage from the current financial model instilled by the 25 bloodlines?
That's why they always come down when people make their own currencies. They come down hard on it. Yeah.
100.
100.
Wow.
Dude.
I'm telling you, that's like when you start to get into that, now you wonder why that Michigan governor stopped letting people sell seeds.
Yes. Yeah,
You're like,
absolutely.
oh my God, they're that evil.
They're that evil. They're that particular and they're that intentional about what they're doing.
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily that's evil. I think this is the equivalent of a political jump in, like a gang jump in, where it's like these governors and mayors are trying to show that they're willing to do whatever it is, even if it's destructive to their constituents, in order to rise up the level of power structure.
That's a good point. And I also think there's people at various levels who think like, oh, I'm just doing like what I'm supposed to do. And the other people are like, no, we need to do it like this so that we can get them into this position. So there's like various levels of schemers. But the people at the top who had the plan and who are doing this on purpose are the true evil, you know?
But I mean, like a lot of people think it's hopeless. I just don't. I think
it's not. We just showed that it wasn't.
I think that the internet got away from them, man. They created it and it got away from them.
Yes.
Whoa.
100% again, is it in the best interest of people to completely disengage from their local politicians and start working within the interests of their local and regional communities?
Yeah. Simultaneous clapping from me and Sam.
Like, yeah. Yes. Acting locally, thinking globally.
Yes, and not in the context of the political structure they have, but just as yourself, go out in your communities and actually create what you want to see.
That's important for you guys. Yeah.
I think that Trump is the last of the two-party presidents, meaning the last of the Democrat-Republican political system that we've been forced in. Ooh.
I like that.
Oh, you know. Oh no!
In the United States.
It'd be the last of the presidents, right? Do we got to put presidents in there, or
to be the last president of the two political party system in the United States.
Good
Here
question,
we go.
Sam.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh!
Oh!
Wow. I
Wow.
did not expect that. I expected to look very bad right there.
Wow, nice
So
job.
I think that really what people need to do is they need to decide that, listen, we are absolutely fed up. Like, you're telling us this, you're telling us this, you're telling us this, you're restricting us here, you're doing this, when we know inside of our gut instinct that this is the right thing for us to do. Like to collect rainwater, for instance,
Yes.
to, not wear a mask if it isn't necessary, or if you don't feel like it's going to help you. All of these different types of things, it's just actually common freaking sense, but people are actually afraid of the repercussions. And what causes fear is that they're paying attention to the laws, they're paying attention to all of these things instead of just doing their own thing and being willing to back it up.
Amen.
And this is where I feel that so many people have let their liberties be walked on because they don't know how to enforce their own ideas. If it came down to that, they don't know how to stand up for their own intellectual ideas. They don't know how to use martial arts, or martial arts also includes shooting and defense and all these other things in order to defend what is absolutely, honestly, truly their own unique freedoms that they need to live by. And
Couldn't agree
they know
more.
this within their heart. And I think that if people would just take that time, it doesn't take a long time to learn how to defend yourself, really. It doesn't take a lot of time to work with your neighbors in such a way that if the police force, the entire county police force, were to come, that you and your neighborhood would say, nah, actually, we're not interested in this. You're going to have to kill every single one of us if that's what you want to do in order to stop this movement from happening, because this is something that we absolutely agree in. We want to tear down our fences in the backyard and create our own collective school and grow our own gardens and create our own child daycare, because we're not interested in the pervs and molesters who are out there infiltrating our schools and our churches and other things like that. We want to see over and take care of our own. And I think if people would take their own responsibility over their own lives for food, for water, for shelter, for the community institutions that they feel are important, it's game over for the political situation. It's just that people need to come to the realization, not only that that is possible, but that it's a direct reality. And if you went out and you started talking to your neighbors, you would probably find that 4 out of 5 of them would agree with you. Even if they disagree about the specifics, that's okay, because that's what community is for. You dialogue, you commune, you talk about things that are absolutely important for the resources that you have locally. And if you're so at odds with your neighbors, that should tell you you're probably not in the right location, and you can start to seek out people that are more like-minded. That's why we have the internet. That's why we have all these things. So.
Phoenix, I think that's well said. I don't think people realize that. Just in California, you can see that, like, it is my belief, guys, that authority is an illusion. It is, and that is part of what we're talking, the Rockefeller school system.
Yes.
That these powers are at the top, and we must obey them. Yep. And when we push back, they wilt because they have no power. It is the emperor's new clothes, guys. Yes. It is the emperor's new clothes. They only have power because we let them have power. Absolutely. Just in California, counties that said Gavin Newsom kiss our ass, right? He's like, you guys can do what you want. I'm going to let you guys do that. And the other ones who bent over and became cucks got hammered with these rules. We got mayors like, we might come to your house and just cut off the power if you don't listen to it, because people just bend over. This town is insanely huge. They couldn't stop us if they wanted to.
Yeah, well, that's so important. Absolutely. And this started back in school when the teacher tried to humiliate you by putting on the dunce hat or putting your head down or whatever in class to try and make you stand out. And there are two real responses that people, there's either a choice of reaction or response. The reaction is to be emotionally embarrassed and just to react to the situation. But there are two real responses that people could have if they don't react. One is that it can strengthen their resolve, or two, that it can shatter their resolve. And what people need to do is rebuild, if they need to, their sense of spiritual certainty, which is to say that, no, I know that what I'm doing is right for me, and this is exactly the way that I need to live. And if they were to live with that resolve, there's not much that people will make you do. Maybe temporarily they can come in and shut off your power, and then you know what? You go right to the courts and you start to hold a lawsuit, and there are plenty of lawyers, even if you don't have money, that will take that on pro bono because they know there's tons of money inside of that, and that it's unconstitutional for mayors to do that if you don't follow their rules, because they are public servants. And they did not get the majority vote of people to say that that was the right thing to do. They are acting outside of their jurisdiction.
Well, you guys, I love this conversation. I've loved this episode so much, but I know, Sam, that you have to go, and so I want to start to draw things down.
I would love to do this.
Yeah, let's do it again.
On a regular basis with you guys.
Absolutely.
And I'd love to talk to you guys a little bit more about, this was great. I got really slammed this week. The next one we do, I'm going to focus all my energy and make sure we get, but I loved all the questions. I love the viewers' questions. I love the questions that we answered. And I look forward to the next one, guys. And please make sure to send me all your info so I can include it when I post it to my stuff. And to everybody listening, thank you so much. I had a great time. I look forward to doing it again.
And tell people one more time where to get you and what you have coming up.
Well, Twitter is, who knows? It's either Ronan Sam Tripoli or Buddha Sammy. Ronan Sam Tripoli or Buddha Sammy is my Twitter. Sam Tripoli, Tripoli, anywhere on Instagram. And you guys check out my Patreon, which is patreon.com/tinfoil hat. And this new spiritual podcast I'm doing called Zero, that's available exclusively on Rockfin. I'm having a great time. Cool. If either you guys would like to do anything on Rockfin, just let me know. I'd love to help you guys out. It's a great place. It's kind of like the Netflix of premium content. Cool. You $10, you get so many of these amazing channels that you only get right there. So go check it out. And that's about it. If you're in Wisconsin, come see me. And if you want to see my stand-up comedy, just go to samtripoli.com or youtube.com/Sam Tripoli Comedy. Thank you guys again. I had a great time. You guys, this is so much fun. I could do this all the time, every time.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, get some feedback from your listeners. Ask some feedback. See if they like it, because I'm okay doing this as long as other people are interested in it. And if they're going to be empowered by it and actually start making differences. If they're not, I'm not going to waste my time. But if they will, I want to continue doing this.
Well, man, we have a saying on the show, man, we're popping minds like champagne bottles. And I think that people, I think they do hear it. And you see more and more waking up. We did this big march over here. I talked about it a couple times. Again, the next march against child sex trafficking is August 22nd. Woo. And I didn't think anyone was going to show up. And it was packed.
Wow, that's so cool.
So people are waking up. We are doing good. Sometimes we don't see it right instantly, but it is happening. And we are, when you see the ratings on TV, you see stock in like Nike going down, you see like Tom Hanks moving. The demonization of the term silent majority really sucks, because it's really loving people. And at this march, guys, it was every demographic: straight, gay, white, black, Hispanic, Asian, male, female. Every demographic was there. It was the most amazing, diverse march I've ever been at. And I think we're coming together, everybody. So just know, Phoenix and Lindsay, you guys are doing great jobs. And if it ever feels like you're not doing the Lord's work, just know that you really are. And people appreciate everything that we're doing. And I appreciate you guys.
Thank you. Likewise, right back at you.
Yeah, that feeling's mutual, man.
Thank you.
So thank you. I'll talk to you guys later, and I appreciate you guys very much. Thank you.
Thanks,
you
Sam.
You too, man. Peace.
Take care, guys.
You too. And Phoenix, if you want to also remind people where they can contact you and get more from you, especially with your you have so many different products and helpful, medicines, media, just everything that people can access. And I think it's really cool. Your classes, there's just so much.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you. So one thing I do want to mention is that coming up on September 5th, I actually have an essential oils and hydrosol class that's being held here at the Phoenix Aurelius Research Academy. Cool. So if you've ever been interested in coming in and seeing what my lab looks like, working with me, especially if you have an interest in pulling your own essential oils or learning how it's done, so on and so forth, I have a class. You just go to my education tab on my website at phoenixaurelius.org. scroll down to group classes or group study, and then you'll be able to see that that's the next one that we're holding. We have 2 others besides that before the end of the year. I think one in October, another in November. All of them are dealing with various aspects of alchemical work, but as you'll notice, this is also personal development work too, anytime that we work in the laboratory. So even if you don't have a particular interest in performing lab work, there are corollaries to the spiritual work and the internal work that I always talk about inside of those classes that go hand in hand with what we're doing. And so whether you're looking for personal transformation or laboratory transformation or both, there's a lot of information for you there. If you're interested in studying one-on-one with me, I still have, I think actually we're booked out for 2020, but starting 2021, we do have a wait list going, and I will probably have 6 or 7 opportunities of one-on-one immersion classes where you come and live with me and work with me one-on-one in the laboratory or for spiritual work or whatever else, or ideally both, in 2021. So if you're interested in that, check into that. Like I said, I've got the meditation album that you can get for free by entering in coupon code Rogue Ways at checkout under the media tab. And again, Lindsay, remind me, I know it's my own damn website, but like you said, I've got so much going on. It's I think under the folder that's
it's phoenixaurelius.org tools-resources, and it's the first thing you'll see there.
Yep. And I've got that. I've also got a huge spagyric apothecary where I make alchemical remedies and medicines out of 100% organic, biodynamic, or wild harvested herbs. And this is kind of my bread and butter. This is where people who are interested in buying tinctures or herbal remedies can go to my store, search through the entire apothecary, and find something that fits them. Every month, I also have featured items, featured products that you will find if you hover over the apothecary tab instead of clicking on apothecary. And you'll see that every month we release 5 new options. In fact, we'll be releasing some tomorrow. And there'll be 5 new products on there, which tomorrow it's going to be blood orange, I think pomegranate, wild blueberry, rose hip, and there's another one on there. So they're and ginger, fresh ginger root. So all of those ones are really awesome. They're always 20% off the very first month that we release these new releases. So check those out. That really helps to support my research on an ongoing basis. And I have a huge wait list for IDF wellness research. And before long, starting in September, I'll be opening up my consultations again. So people who are interested in having their own IDF, funding their own IDF research, whether it's, questions like this or about their farm or about just all sorts of different types of things, or whether it's about laboratory work or whatever, IDF or not, you just want to pick my brain, $150 an hour. That supports our research a lot. And that helps me to continue the work that I'm doing and continue studying and to be able to dedicate my time, which is unpaid, to things like this and podcasts, to be able to get the word out and to share what I've learned so that it makes a bigger impact and doesn't just stay with me.
Yes. I love that about the work you do. You're very scientific, you're very methodical, and you're very giving and generous with what you do as well. And it's for the benefit of everybody. So I think it's really awesome. And thank you for all that you do. And I want to do all those things you're talking about. Like, I'm like, ooh, maybe I can come in September. Maybe I could do like the one-on-one, because it all sounds awesome. And it always has. So one of these days I'm going to end up doing that. But
yeah. And
excellent.
By the way, those of you who are Rogue Ways listeners and want to support Lindsay, and Rogue Ways just in general, she is an affiliate of Phoenix Aurelius, and anytime that you use the link and click on her link, it's going to take you to my site. You're going to pay the exact same price. The only difference is that she's going to get an awesome cut to be able to help proliferate her work as well. And so that's important to me, is creating symbiosis between the networks. And so please hit Lindsay up, ask for the affiliate link so that she can get some credit, whether you're going to do education or whatever else, because that's going to help to further her work. And the more that we grow together, the stronger off we're all going to be. So
awesome. Thank you for mentioning that. And actually, anybody who's listening or watching, it's in the show notes. It's under the videos. It's on every single page of my site, I believe. It should be, at least. So if you click through to Phoenix from me, then you will be supporting Rogue Ways. So thank you for that. And it's like a win-win-win. You get great, amazing products. You get to help Phoenix's research, and you get to support Rogue Ways, which you love. So it's all good. Well, I know you already gave like a really good summary of how to save the entire world, but do you want to add another final thought, which we usually do to close things down?
Yeah, I want people really to think about how to ask better questions. Yes. Because if they're not left as rhetorical questions, if they're not open-ended and just things that you ask idly, those questions will help you get to the answers that are going to help you individually, help your community, and help the planet globally. And those are the things that I think are the most critical and the most important right now. Ask as many questions as you can, or trade quantity for quality and ask the best questions that you can that are going to make the most impact in this very moment. And if you do that, whether you're using IDF technology or not, you're going to arrive at some really spectacular answers, and that's going to help us all.
Absolutely. Asking questions is one of the most underrated skills ever. I say that as a teacher, having tried to teach question asking to students. You would think it's easy, and it's not. And so I thought, I'm in agreement with you. Ask better questions, practice asking questions. Ask yourself if the questions you're asking are for like those idle satisfactory purposes, or if they're going to lead you somewhere. Even if they're idle for the moment, like where does it go next? Where are you going to take it from there? So thank you for that. And fellow travelers of the path, it is a beautiful thing. This has been your analog electric concentric dose of wisdom according to Sam Tripoli at Tinfoil Hat Podcast. He is already gone, but we thank Sam for being here tonight. That was extra super fun. And according to Phoenix Aurelius, the master alchemist and teacher and philosopher, Phoenix, thank you so much for sharing your time with us.
My pleasure. Thank you so much, everybody.
Awesome. So be true to the path that unfurls before you. It will never lead you astray. When you push and force and exert a will that is not in complete alignment with your highest self, it feels like work all day, every day. You create all kinds of things in this state, and none of them serve you. Not much will ever come truly easy, not coming from disease and disconnection as many of us are and have been, but it will always get easier and easier when you fall into the flow of your natural state and slip down the corridors that stream takes you. Let go in the best ways, hold on to what is most pure and true, and until you master the intricacies of that ride, travel well, aim for balance, and always look inside first. Mwah.
I heard the Freemasons called you.
Man, they at it again, and I'm out to tell the truth once more.
That's right.
It's on the cracking, unknown in the house. APOGZ, that's right. Hitting the stereo near you. Truth is the best thing, and it's on. Yo, I once thought that I wanted to get Denver on track, but there's something more bigger than that. Something lurking, waiting to blow this state right off the map. A hidden agenda related to September. Doves carved up on the wall next to the highway. Up in the concrete, while rolling home next to where I stay. With state's destruction, Lockheed Martin malfunction. While NORAD's in the mountain anticipating our next move. My heart's jumping and I'm like, fuck waiting. While crooked taxes are burning a hole in my pocket. With a dollar bill and a pyramid that's watching. Instead of having a capstone on top of it, they have an eye with a fast surprise while you're flossing it. Greedy niggas jocking it, politics plotting it. So who you vote for really doesn't mean shit. So save your energy from being drained by the enemy. Skull and bones of Freemasonry, envisioning dreams of them chasing me. Skull and bones of Freemasonry, envisioning dreams of them chasing me. Skull and bones of Freemasonry, secret agencies with a plan to dominate all of man. Check the records of DIA, strange murals and paintings similar to the ones next to the highway. With pyramids and flames underneath them looking like they're about to fly away. I can't be tripping, but it sounds like I'm on acid. Most people slipping, taken below DIA, held captive in the near future, where they won't hesitate to reinstate new laws for a bigger cause. I'm talking about established civilian concentration camps, introducing the military's labor programs. Expand your mind just a little bit, forget the little shit before you witness the belittlement of your people. Expand your mind just a little bit, forget the little shit before you witness the belittlement of your people.
Fantastic stretch of the truth, the script that he's spitting is true. Pay attention to what's going on or it might happen to you. When it's happening your tools, cellular communication monitor, behavior studied and controlled through chemicals bombing nerves. Honest murder, Jesus ain't got anything to do with it. Religious cynic, where experiments cage and lace and term terms of accepting limits. Things they can't explain to the sky when I'm in the Rockies. Chakra systems limited due to the voltage overhead pop. Mind control victims, slap clips and machine guns for recess. FCC will help us speak less, manipulate us through weak feel right non-fiction with the CIA trying to kill me filthy. Talking about the underground facility at DIA, no one feel that place laced with hints. Notice whenever I return home, lack some references in a new world Masonic capstone. Employ an Area 51 workers to build, and I don't mean to rant. In the face of an emergency, it doubles as a FEMA camp. Talking reaction, solution, trickery, repeated through history. NORAD's listening in, using technology, tracking where you piss and sleep. Paranoid or just facing the fact. Better watch what you say, it's another day under the Patriot Act.
Extend your mind just a little bit, forget the little shit before you intercept a little bit of your people. Extend your mind just a little bit, forget the little shit before you intercept a little bit of your people.
The idea is to bring people to the point where they are helpless, passive, and unable to assert their own creative power to form anything else. Success for people like this is measured in terms of money, which they then translate into power.
Corruption and violations of the Constitution. Secret societies, the push for one world government. I'd like to get corruption and violations of the Constitution.
The idea is to bring people to the point where they are helpless, passive, and unable to assert their own creative power to form anything else.